Hey there, YouTube. Got a Nigerian update. School children, unfortunately, it's a bad one. School children were kidnapped in Nigeria's Kaduna state. And I think the estimates are 80 school children. Now, this is something that we've seen before in the past. Remember, there was several of these incidents happening. They just go into a school and they kidnap all the children that are there and then, hold them for ransom or worse.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight in Nigeria, gunmen kidnapped 8 secondary school students. The pupils from A1 Government Secondary School in Kaduna State were taken after the gang had earlier abducted others. Also in DR Congo, Doctors Without Borders or Médecins Sans Frontières warn that many of the million people forced from North Kivu by M23 rebel attacks are living in appalling conditions. And it'll pay to go green in South Africa. Cape Town will soon be able to buy power from independent producers who feed into the local electricity grid.
All right, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and... This is an Africa update, y'all. I love this France 24 segment, Eye on Africa. They do a lot of really great work. And I think it's one of the only news agencies, English news agencies that's really, covering Africa in this way. So it's really cool.
But first, at least 8 children have been kidnapped in Nigeria's northwestern state of Kaduna. The captives are students at the Awon Government Secondary School who were taken as they left class on Monday. The gang behind the abduction had earlier taken several other people. Kaduna has seen a rash of mass school kidnappings for ransom over the years, although there has been a recent lull. Samuel Okoye joins us now with more. Sam, so 8 students were taken, others also. What more can you tell us about what happened?
Well, the information we have is that this, contrary to initial information, these students were not taken from their school. They were actually on their way home after close of the day when these gunmen who were out for other things, they had earlier kidnapped some other people, and when they saw these children, they decided to take them along. So there were between 8 and 10 children who were taken in this particular incident. And I would say this incident is coming about a day after we had a similar incident in a school in Zamfara State where gunmen broke into an hostel and took away some female students.
Now, the government has been trying to stop the end of ransom payments to kidnappers.
Female students.
Does that look like it's had much of an effect, and is it likely to affect what happens now?
Kaduna State is the one that actually led this campaign that the government said if families don't pay ransom, then these people will not carry out abduction. But we've seen the result of this, that when people are abducted and they refuse to pay, they start executing them. We've seen lots of executions that have taken place because families refuse to pay ransom. So families have defied the government order. They are openly soliciting for funds to pay ransom. So I imagine in this case also, the families would rather pay ransom rather than allow their loved ones to be executed by these highly ruthless gunmen. The burden is strongly on the government.
Doing this?
If you say people should not pay ransom, then people expect that the government should be able to stop innocent people being kidnapped. And if this happens, then the government should be able to rescue them. But we've seen over the years clearly that the government is unable to stop incidents of kidnapping, and the government is unable to rescue people. We've had instances where abductions like this happen, and the police will even tell families, please raise money and see how we can rescue your loved ones. So I imagine these families would rather rely on contributions rather than relying on the governments to rescue their loved ones.
That's a pretty gruesome.
Thanks very much, Samuel Okoye, there for us in.
That's a pretty fucking gruesome GoFundMe. You know what I mean? My daughter was kidnapped, and they're gonna execute her unless I can raise X amount of money. That's fucking. I bet you GoFundMe would cancel that shit too, wouldn't they?
Lagos. Now, in DR Congo, Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, has warned that not enough's being done for the over 1 million people who fled North Kivu since the resurgence of M23 attacks last year. DR Congo's extended martial law in North Kivu for another 2 weeks, and on Monday, South Sudan sent another 300 soldiers to the East African Regional Force helping Kinshasa fight the M23 rebels. Now, this year, the insurgents missed several deadlines of a peace agreement with DR Congo's government, but they have now finally moved out of the strategic town of Bunagana. Our Anastie Tudier tells us more.
Bunagana had been under the control of M23 militants for over 9 months. Ugandan troops are now deployed there after the East African Regional Force re-entered the eastern Congolese town as part of a mediated deal with the rebels. The regional force is hoping to get the M23 to withdraw from areas in Rutshuru territory. Meanwhile, other troops from Burundi and Kenya are deployed in Masisi territory. The East African Force is helping peace efforts in DR Congo's east, but its mandate, and particularly the arrival of Ugandan troops, has proved to be controversial, including at the Congolese National Assembly.
We all remember that in June 2022, Uganda was cited by the United Nations as a country that served as a rear base for the M23.
Yeah.
We don't understand.
Pretty sure some of these guys were like in death squads, you know, against them. So yeah, I can see why this would be a little touchy.
And how such a country that must be considered an aggressor in the same way as Rwanda, a country that was condemned in 2005 by the ICC for crimes committed on Congolese territory in order to pay damages to the DRC. I say we don't understand how a country like that can possibly be considered a partner country.
Awkward.
Another point of contention is how the Congolese army will take over areas freed by the M23. The insurgents are gradually withdrawing, but have insisted that before the Congolese army move into vacated territory, the government commit to further talks with the M23. But Kinshasa said that the army won't be subject to such conditions when operating on Congolese territory. And areas currently being managed by the East African Regional Force will be gradually handed over to the Congolese armed forces.
I think we're kind of seeing something similar in Haiti as well, where they're finally starting to use military force against these mafia-like elements, because negotiating with them isn't really working out too well.
Now, DR Congo's spending on battling the M23 is just one of the factors that's fed into a spike in prices. The Congolese franc has also lost about 15% of its value against the US dollar since January. Shoppers are all feeling the pinch, but as always, it's the most vulnerable who are hardest hit.
Yeah. That just makes essentials more expensive.
Shoppers in Kinshasa are feeling the crunch as the Congolese franc continues to plummet against the dollar.
Before, we used to buy a bunch of leaves, like this one, for 500 francs, but now it costs 3,000. What are we going to do? Where will this situation take us?
What did that double or triple? How much? 500 francs, but now it costs 3,000? Fucking fuck. Could you imagine? I mean, we're all dealing with inflation, but not that bad. Not that bad. I mean, people were bitching about eggs being like $8 or $9 or $10, but this is like eggs being, $4 a dozen, to like, I don't know what, $20 a dozen and, $30 a dozen, something like that.
What are we going to do? Where will this...
I mean, we're all feeling the pinch, but imagine, folks in positions like this where, literally, couple dollars a day, couple dollars a month, sometimes equivalent, of what they're using in their currency. Really, really rough. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the money situation here, but I don't you just love it? The solution is that the only solution we have is to make middle class and poor people suffer. Sorry, guys. We gotta cut jobs. We gotta cut wages. That's the only solution. We can't do any profit, anything. But look forward to that. Someone much smarter than me, Yanis Varoufakis, is going to be speaking about. He's the only video I could find that wasn't. Oh, we got to cut jobs. We got to cut more jobs. More jobs. Kill them. Lower wages. Hurry. Like literally every financial fucking video I saw. That's the solution. These fucking millionaires up here on TV. Anyway, we're going to get to that, to the money side in a little bit with Yanis Varoufakis. Good times. But yeah, inflation hitting the poorest the hardest. And what's the solution? Oh, we got to make their lives more miserable.
Situation take us.
Sellers too say they're struggling to maintain their profit margins.
Worse.
The increase in prices has been felt across the board, from food to transport. The Congolese franc has depreciated by around 15% against the US dollar since the start of the year. The drop in the currency has contributed to pushing prices up, especially since the DRC has one of the most dollarized economies in the world. This means that dollars are accepted in many shops and restaurants, and that people make their most significant purchases in dollars. But people are usually paid in the local currency. At this currency exchange market in Kinshasa, there's a surplus of francs and not enough dollars.
It's a law of supply and demand. When demand increases, so do the prices. And as a result, there is a higher demand for...
What a bizarre niche. You're sitting out in the sun all day. You're playing with bills all day. What a weird fucking job. Boy, this is just so weird. This exists in airports and stuff everywhere else, but this, I don't know, it's just so interesting to me. I don't know, it's really interesting to me.
Dollars. Everyone comes looking for dollars, and so we end up with too many Congolese francs in circulation.
Like US dollars or?
The situation has been exacerbated by the conflict taking place in the country's east, which has led to increased government spending. Economists say that this has played a role in creating a surplus of Congolese francs on the local market.
Now, there's a big push in Togo to promote the sale of locally sourced tilapia. The fish is the most eaten breed in West Africa, but local farmers long struggled with competition from Chinese imported fish. Now, that was banned in 2018, and since then, the industry's gone from strength to strength.
Hey, some good news. You'd love to see it.
The largest fish farming estate in Togo stretches across Lake Nangto in the Plateau region. Pierre Akakpovi leads the tilapia industry on the Mono River.
Tilapia farms.
Now our daily harvest capacity is 7 to 10 tons.
Lofty Farm provides technical support to 12 other entrepreneurs. Established.
Yeah, thank you, Equaldari, for saying that. I was trying to find the words, but protectionism sometimes works. I believe in a global economy. I believe in nations working together and sharing resources and commodities and doing all that. But I also believe in nations making sure their people are taken care of. There's certain things that people need. Food is definitely one of them. Food needs to be cheap, affordable, and plentiful. Cheap and affordable is the same thing, dumbass.
On the lake by the Togolese government. Together, they account for 90% of the national fish production. The company began production in response to the scandal on contaminated tilapia imported from China. Despite its ban since 2018, Chinese tilapia still circulates illegally through the easily accessible borders.
These are the fish that the Chinese smuggle. They freeze them with 30% water and 70% fish.
Everything produced here is organic, starting with the main ingredient, food for the fish. The entrepreneur partners with a deep freezing specialist who buys 60% of his production to market across the country.
Today there are 200 tons of stock of frozen fish in our cold rooms in Lomé, and there are still 200 by the lake that can't be frozen because the cold rooms are full. And that's because some people don't want to play fair by supporting local producers.
To support local production, the government had to impose a quota of 4% of Togolese tilapia to be purchased by frozen fish importers.
Well, I mean, sometimes yes, you know, maybe not though. It really does depend on the commodity and the country and all that, right? I think sometimes a tax, you know, and like a more fair market choice is the right choice, right? Because there's a lot of mom and pop shops. There's a, you know, there's a lot of things to consider there. But I think in some cases, nations will weaponize, and China and the United States, all the big nations do this, but nations will weaponize their commodities to cripple another nation's industry in whatever it is. And that nation that's being attacked in that way has a right to protect itself.
However, according to supporters of the local fish industry, this is not enough because most of the production costs rely on cereal consumption, with their soaring prices.
Imported fish is subsidized through tariff reductions, unlike local fish.
The job attracts a young workforce, with 300 presently working for Lofty Farm.
Our ambition is to produce enough for all Togolese people to have fish to eat and to avoid consuming imported fish.
90,000 tons of fish are still imported into the country. Provided it receives concrete support, Lofty Farm aims to conquer regional and international markets.
No, this is great. This is how a country can pull itself up and stand on its own. You know, that doesn't mean that, hey, you know, once their tilapia, everything is stabilized and everyone's got a tilapia in their home, they can start talking about exporting and opening up the market a little bit more. But no, this is exactly how, especially third world countries, this is how they can give themselves a leg up and, you know, stand on their own and compete in this global market. It's a little unfair to criticize them for implementing protectionism, especially with the history of Western exploitation in Africa. I feel like, you know, hey, give them a little break, right? What a great segment, by the way.
And in South Africa, it's going to start paying to go green. K-Town will soon be able to buy power from independent producers who feed into the local electricity grid. And that sparked a record number of residents registering solar installations in February.
Okay, wait, I don't want to get into this one. We already had one. I got to move on. Solar is good. More solar, yes. Another feel-good story on Africa. Make sure you follow France 24 so you can catch these stories. Eye on Africa. They do live streams as well. It's always entertaining. So thank you, France 24, for that great coverage on Africa. I wish I had more time to cover Africa, but unfortunately I don't. Thank you, YouTube.